2, 3, clap.
Should
Perfect.
be probably fine.
Yeah, that's totally fine.
Don't we usually go 3, 2, 1?
Well, I wanted to make my own space on the stage, okay?
This is Katie's show today. Dempsey can't control her.
So
That's
true.
right. I count up, not down, because I'm a positive person.
Oh. Okay. Okay.
I don't know. Okay. And on that note, that's our cold open. It wasn't cold, it felt cold. So, welcome to Overthinking Games, a podcast about what video games can teach us. My name is Katie. I'm a special education teacher and a gamer, and I'm joined by my co-host, Seth.
Hi,
Seth.
I'm Seth. I like to claim myself as an East Coast immersion educator. I teach science, except not tomorrow, because I'm taking a mental health day.
Fantastic. And we are joined by a special guest this week, Brett from Lord to Death. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi. My name is Brett. I run the Lord to Death podcast somewhere.
And we are super duper stoked to have you on the show. I have been a fan for quite some time. So this week we're going to be talking about world building, as world building and lore is Brett's area of expertise. But first, before we get into that, we're going to talk about what we've been playing. Seth, you want to start us off?
Yes, and I'm very excited to talk about this. Okay, I like a few different games. First thing, I've been grinding out some Slay the Spire. Man, I suck. I just lost a run like 10 minutes before we started recording. It was going great. Nearly an infinite silent discard run. Ran into Time Eater in Act 3. That was the end of that. Every time.
It does happen.
Eventually, I will get Ascension 20 with all the characters. It's going to take 7 years, but like we'll get there.
I'm glad I'm not the only one who sucks at Slay the Spire. Sometimes, anyways.
Oh, no.
I'm sure you're much better than I
Also-
am. But
I also suck.
Well, like, not to... I have
Here we
500 hours, and I'm still ass.
500
I
hours?
thought you were going to say how... you're the 2.5% elite person who's unlocked all of the
I
achievements.
do have all the achievements in Slay the Spire.
That is 500 hours. Like, the
It
only
might be
game that I have
400.
500 hours in is, like, Skyrim and, like, maybe Fallout New Vegas.
Listen, some good games to have that much time in. So yeah, I've been grinding out some Slay the Spire. That's been a ton of fun. I've been playing like Bloons Tower Defense like fairly casually, which is good because I'm not like a casual game person usually. So to actually have a game that I can just be like, okay, I'm going to use some monkeys to pop some balloons, and we're not going to get stressed out about this, has been good. I've been enjoying that.
Nice.
Lastly, after our last recording, we were talking about Papers, Please. Downloaded it, been playing some Papers, Please. Great game. Love me some Papers, Please.
Amazing game. Glory to Arstotzka.
Not only is it like so I literally downloaded it after our last recording, and then I was just like, okay, I'll play this for a little bit, and then like I'm gonna go to bed. And then we finished recording at 9:30, and I don't think I went to bed till like 1:45, and like I had work the next day, because I was just like, you don't even realize, you're just like, yep, not expired. Yep. Check. Issuing city is correct. Check. Oh, there's 4 documents you have to pass me in order to like cross-reference. Okay, check. Approve. Glory to Arstotzka.
And then a little thing like prints up and you're like, what the hell did I miss?
Yep.
No, I actually, and then I started doing a second run just to be like, oh, I'm just gonna, because my first run, I was like, your paperwork's got to be right or you're getting denied. Like, no exceptions.
And then you started having sympathy.
No, my first run was
Oh.
no sympathy. My first run was like, your paperwork's got to be right. My second run was like the sympathy run. I was like, okay, like, I'll take a 1 or 2 L's a day in order to be a nice guy, which was going fine, I guess.
And then you take sympathy on a man, and then your child dies because you can't afford their medicine. And
Well, yeah. I remember seeing some people talk about like the meta for Papers, Please is just to like
Meta?
yeah, yeah. The meta for Papers, Please is just to like let all of your family members die so that like you save like $15 or $20 a day for not paying for like food for them. And I was like, that's insane.
Cue the Russian anthem. Yep.
That's so cold.
And I was like, there's probably some achievement for it or something, but
How many endings have you encountered?
so I haven't played it that much. I only played it for after I played it a whole ton that night. I played it again on another day, but I've also been playing some like Hearthstone. I don't know. I've just been on like a card game kick. I guess just
Nice.
because I got nothing else better to do with my life or time. So
Oh no. Well, that's cool. You must be pretty good at Papers, Please if you haven't encountered any of the endings yet.
well,
It tells me that you're doing all right.
I got two endings. I got the ending for like the whatever secret organization, the dudes with like the weird eyes, because I followed that in my first playthrough because I was like, that's weird. I want to see what's going on there.
Mm-hmm.
I did the second ending I got was I was just like, I wonder what happens if I just decline everybody. So I just like started up a new run and I just didn't even look at any of the information. I just like stamped decline as fast as possible for everybody. And I guess there's an ending for doing that because I ended up with like -$5 on the first day and I was like, sick.
Wow.
And you went to go to jail.
Yeah, they were like, we shouldn't
This is
have hired you.
tragic.
And I was like, that's probably
This was
true.
a mistake.
The fact that you're so bad at stamping papers means you need to go to jail for the rest of your life.
Yeah, sick.
Cool.
It's the opposite of the
Um,
DMV.
Right. Brett, what have you been playing this week?
So I picked up the Resident Evil 4 remake on the spooky
Nice.
Steam sale. Resident Evil 4 is like one of my favorite OG horror games. It was one of like, it was actually maybe the first horror game I ever actually played. It was back when you could like rent games from Blockbuster. And I rented it one time because I'm like, ooh, it looks kind of cool. I don't know what Resident Evil is. And it scared the tar out of me when I was a kid. But it's like since become one of my favorites. And yeah, just started playing the remake. I'm probably like 3/4 of the way through that now, I think. Depending on how much stuff they've changed. I don't know. They've changed a good amount, but I'm actually happy with what they've changed. They made it it flows a lot better than the original, in my opinion. I'm still going through my like 4th Elden Ring playthrough.
Sick.
I'm trying to get a character like DLC ready for when it comes out I think the DLC drops in like February.
Oh,
So
is that like an actual date?
I want to say that February 5th is like the date. I want to say, maybe I'm wrong about that, but I think that's true.
He's Googling
Please
it.
fact check
I'm
me.
Googling it.
But yeah, so I'm doing a playthrough of that because I want to like get because all my characters are in New Game Plus currently, and I'm like, I don't want to do the DLC in New Game Plus. So I figured I would start a new game. I've been doing like a half pyromancy build, or I guess like an incantation faith build, which I've never used magic in any Souls game before, so it's very
Wow.
very different. When I play the games, I like to play like Sword and Shield, like that's like I like the medieval fantasy. So playing with spells is kind of foreign to me, and it took a while to get used to, but I'm like
Oh yeah.
right in it now. Like I love it.
You doing a full spell build? Like
It's like a half and half. So I mean, like, so I'm relying on spells more than I was in the beginning. But like I've got 2 faith weapons. So I've got the what are they called? So I think it's called like the Winged Scythe. It's like a scythe that does faith damage, or that does holy damage.
is it the ones you get off of the Clean Rot Knights?
Yes. No. It's you get it out of like a random dungeon in
Does
like
it
the
shoot
Weeping
like the
Peninsula or
white
something.
like ring discs?
No. It's weapon art is it like you do like a horizontal slash and like jump up in the air and then you like come back down. It's like super cool. I don't remember what it's called because I'm terrible with names. And then I'm also using
You're right, it's the Winged Scythe.
is that what it was actually called? Oh dang.
Yeah.
And then I'm using the like dragon arm that you get from
Sick.
Godric. Is it Godric the Grafted?
Yeah.
Whatever, one of the gods. And that's also
Godric
really
the
fun.
God?
What?
No, it's just his name starts with God.
Yeah. So there's
Oh,
like
okay.
Godric, Godwin, and Godfrey. And it gets very
no.
confusing to remember them all.
Sounds like Utah naming conventions.
Have I been playing anything? Like, I think those have been my mains. Me and my wife have been playing Wheel of Fortune a lot lately.
Nice.
Because it's just like a stupid little fun. I don't know. It's a good way to pass the time in the evening. But yeah, that's pretty much what I've been playing.
Is your wife much of a gamer?
Not really. I've been trying to get her slowly more into it. She has played a couple things. Like she really likes the Zelda games. But that's pretty much the extent of it. So I've been trying to get her to like play a little bit more here and there, but she started Horizon Zero Dawn a while ago. And then I think that might have been a little bit too much.
Okay.
It is kind of, it gets a little complicated, but
yeah, not necessarily beginner friendly.
yeah, maybe not. Well, because I was playing Forbidden West and she's like, oh, this looks really cool. Like Aloy's really neat. Like I want to shoot robot dinosaurs with a bow. And I'm like, well, I have Zero Dawn. You should just play it.
Yeah.
And yeah, she tried and it was just kind of like, I think she got stuck on combat a little bit, which is fair. The combat is like, it's very fast.
Yeah. And all the different like weapons and different strategies. There's a lot to it. Yeah. I love that game.
Have I ever talked about my Horizon story? Where like,
I don't think so.
So the first time I played through, the first one's Forbidden whatever, right?
First one's Zero Dawn.
Horizon Zero Dawn.
Oh, okay. So I played around on that one, and you know, coming from like a Souls-like background, I was like, oh, this like the spear is fun to use. Like you just like dash forward when you use it. And I was just kind of using it for the first few levels. And my roommate's girlfriend at the time was like, she's a big gamer, and she's like, you're doing it wrong. She's like, you're supposed to use like the bow. And I was like, all right, well, like, I guess I'm never touching the bow. So I went through just like most of that game up until you get to like the really like the largest dinosaurs, only using the spear. I did not use any of the bow or any of the extra tools up until you get to like the really big like T-Rex. And it took me like 10 minutes to get it down to like half health, and then it one-shot me, and I was like, nah, this isn't as fun anymore.
So on that topic, because this is what this sounds like. Do you like Soul Level 1 builds in Souls games?
Have you done the Elden Ring Rune Level 1 build?
God, no.
No.
I don't like. I am not. I don't do any of that. I'm not good enough.
No, see,
me either.
The Elden Ring one is mostly fun.
Fun.
There's a few bosses at the end that it is not fun for. Like Fire Giant is not a fun one. But like and like Elden Beast is not that fun. But the rest of the game's actually a ton of fun because the game gives you like so many resources to like up stats with like your physics or like armor pieces. It's actually like a ton of fun to be like, I want to use this weapon. How can I do it at Rune Level 1?
It's like a puzzle in itself.
Yeah, I think I calculated out if you combine like all the stat totals, you could two-hand a weapon with like 48 strength or something at Rune Level 1. Like It's ridiculous.
Well, it's like I know there's a lot of stuff for like intelligence.
Oh yeah,
a ton of stuff that can boost your intelligence, but jeez, yeah, no, that's
it is fun.
Okay, you know what? After the DLC, maybe I'll bump that out. Maybe big maybe.
Whenever that comes out.
Did you see if did you find a confirmed date?
So when they originally tweeted about it was February of this year. It was February 23rd, 2023. So a full year would be like February 2024.
Maybe it was just like a rumor mill that I saw on Reddit one day. Who knows?
I wouldn't be surprised.
If we believe it enough, it might be true.
Nope.
Miyazaki is like Santa. You just have to believe.
Oh no. Okay.
What have you been playing?
Anything else, Brett? Oh, I'm so glad you asked. First, I have to say for the podcast, I forgot to say that we don't have Dempsey, our usual third co-host, here this week. So sorry, Dempsey.
Silent the entire time.
You've just been ejected from the podcast. No, not at all. He couldn't join us this week, so he will be back with us next week. He is sorely missed for his hot takes and armorless Elden Ring runs. But yeah, so he'll join us next week. But for me this week, I've been playing. So after we talked about Papers, Please last week on our last episode, I jumped back in with both feet. And since last night, I've played like 5.5 or 6 hours.
Holy cow.
And I've gotten to like day 29, and I'm I'm hunting for all of the endings. So I've gotten like 6 endings so far, and there's 20 total. So I'm not sure. Now I'm in the exploration phase of, okay, if I do this, am I gonna get arrested? No? Okay. And then when I do get arrested, I go back and I change something and say, okay, well, will I not get arrested? And see if I can get a little bit further.
Are you going to look up the endings to see if you can get all of them, or are you just going to kind of try?
I'm at the phase where there's still some things that are pretty obvious to me to try. So I'm going to keep going with that until I get to the stage where I'm like, I have no idea what to do differently to get the next 15 endings, which I'm sure is I'm starting to get to that stage, but I think I have 2 or 3 more endings maybe that I can kind of imagine how to get there. But I always find it really weird that I love this game so much because my actual job is literally legal paperwork that's super persnickety. Like as part of special ed, that's like half of my job. But I don't know, there's something about doing it for Aristotska that's like way more satisfying and fun.
Maybe you just have to start
so,
in your real life. You just have to start saying glory to Aristotska every time you like stamp a paper, and that'll make it more fun.
Enter an IEP goal. Glory to Aristotska. That's what's going to happen. Yeah, it would make it better. A gamification. It's a legit strategy in the classroom, Seth. Don't shake your head at me.
Listen, I understand. I did some of that today.
No.
Now, the thing that this game, Papers, Please, has done for me is now it makes me want to do like when I run D&D, which is not very often, but when I run D&D, I want to have like interplanar customs. Make all my players write like little passports for their characters that I'm gonna like get like a stamp and be like,
like have everyone make a physical passport.
Yeah, that they have
Amazing.
to have with them anytime they travel between planes.
Awesome. That sounds not tedious at all.
I love that.
I've also been playing Tangle Tower, which is a 2D sort of like hand-drawn art style point and click mystery game where you play as, and now I've completely forgotten both their names. You play as these 2 detectives that have come to this house called Tangle Tower in the middle of this large purple lake, and the art style is like really kooky and zany, but they are aware of it. They're like, yeah, it's really weird that the water is purple. We don't know what to tell you. And you're there because this young woman was murdered in one of the towers. And the way the house is set up, you walk in and there's these like 2 staircases. And one staircase is for the Fellow family, I believe, and the other one is for the Pointer family. And everybody in the Fellow family has a name that starts with an F. So you have like Fitz and Frank and whatever. I can't even think of them all. And then on the P side, you have like Percy and Penelope, Pointer. So everybody, that's how you keep track of who belongs to which family. But it's this large ensemble cast of suspects, and you have to go through and talk to everybody and search their rooms for clues. And then the really fun part about it is that you take their interviews, and if they lie and you have evidence that can refute it, they have these like little sentence frames that you can rearrange to say like, this can't be true because of this. So that means you're lying.
This is the most
refute.
Katie game I've ever heard.
That sounds like that sounds like a combination of like an old point and click CD-ROM game that I would have gotten in a bowl of Shreddies back in like the year 2000, and also like kind of like Danganronpa in like the interrogation parts. Like I don't know if you guys know Danganronpa.
Yeah, I love Danganronpa. Oh my god. Yes.
I also have no idea how to pronounce it. It's like I love the games, and it's like, is it Danganronpa or is it like I don't know how southern to get with the accent on it. I'm not sure.
I don't know. I say it. I think super as American as I can. Danganronpa.
Danganronpa.
Yeah.
I just usually call it Dang It Grandpa or something. Yeah.
Oh, that's
there
a good.
go.
Yeah.
It's too hard to say.
It is on the different side. I think it is that way. It is on that more on that end of like visual novel mystery. But like with a super cutesy aesthetic. So instead of being super creepy and horrifying, everything is adorable. But the writing is really funny. And I've played through, I think I'm probably 2/3 of the way through. And I played it for about 3 hours or 4 hours with my family. So not a very long game, but really, really fun. The mystery's been enjoyable.
It sounds really good.
I got it on sale. So it's been great on my Steam Deck.
Oh, I want to get a Steam Deck so bad. I don't know if this
good.
dates the episode, but they like announced like a new Steam Deck. And
Did they?
yeah, it's like got like better battery, better storage, and like an OLED display, I think.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Interesting.
kind of sounds I don't have one. I'd love one. But
I just got mine this year, and I didn't have any kind of PC before, so it's opened the door to the Steam library for me. And it's a problem because I'm like a dragon and I just keep buying games and hoarding them. I don't play them. I just keep them in a nice little pile.
Same.
And look at them sometimes.
Isn't that what Steam's for? It's just like, look at all these things I have. Aren't they neat?
Yeah. My brother told me he has like 450 games. I was like, what? But now I've only had it for like 6 months and I'm at like 180 games. So I could see how that happens.
I like the idea of a because now I'm thinking about D&D ideas. I like the idea of like a dragon, but he's like a digital dragon, and he's like really into like digital storage. So he's just got like his whole hoard on just like,
terabytes.
Yeah, he's got like a few like terabyte hard drives that he just like sits on, and he's like, I got
he's just like a big
on these,
crypto
man.
dragon.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh,
I got
if we did
Bitcoin on
merch,
this.
that would be like the perfect pin. Maybe we should start doing merch.
Crypto dragon that's just like sitting on some hard drives, and he's like, I'm stacked, man.
Stacked. Yeah, that would be cute. Yeah, that's pretty much what I've been playing this week. Oh, and Inscription with my husband. We've been playing that since literally June.
You guys have.
But he doesn't like to play as much as I do, and so I have to like beg him to play games with me. And then he's been playing with me more lately, so that's fine. But we're probably about a third of the way through. I think we have 2/3 of the game left, so we'll probably still be working on it this time next year, and it's fine. But yeah, so that's what we've been playing. So to segue towards our topic for this week, Brett, you do the podcast Lord to Death, which I kind of have described to people as lore, like video game lore, but for people who don't want like the 10-hour story. So it's perfect for me because I don't really like to watch like those really long YouTube biopics that are like getting into every little detail. And so when I discovered your show, I was like, this is perfect because they're like 20 to 30 minutes, really concise. And I feel like I learned so much about the games. So my first question is just kind of what got you started on the idea of doing a lore podcast in the way that you decided to do it?
So there's like a couple different reasons. The main one is that like I really like I play Dark Souls and I like VaatiVidya's stuff, but it's gotten a little too long, kind of like especially like Elden Ring. There's like hour-long videos, and I'm like, I just don't want to listen to that. And then same with like other lore podcasts I like tried to find. I found that like it was just way too long, and a lot of lore podcasts that I found are like YouTube channels. It was like groups of people who were more focused on like comedy than they were about like the lore. And I'm like, I don't care about your friendship. I just want to learn things. And so it was kind of like that where I'm like, okay, well, like I'm just going to make the podcast that I want to listen to then. And so I kind of just like, I call it like, it's like high school history, but for video game lore. Like it's like, you know, I have to cram everything into a half hour because I don't have anything more than that, and the kids have to go to lunch and they're just going to run out as soon as the bell goes. And it's funny because the way that I structure it is actually based off of my old high school history teacher. He was a gem. He was amazing. He was this like quirky little man who just like everything that he said was, he talked really fast, which I'm really bad for and I'm trying to be better. But like he would talk really fast, get a load of information in like a very short period of time. And it's like every class I would learn so much. And then like he would just have these like little dad jokes kind of intermingled in his like in his classes. And he was just like, I literally modeled like everything that I write, like basically like after his stuff, where I'm like, okay, like I want it to be short, concise. I want there to be a lot of good information, but I don't want to skip over the stuff. Like I don't want to skip over like minor details just because like, just for the interest of time. Like I just need to find a way to make it concise enough. Like I just need to find a way to just cram it in. And so that's kind of like how I got started. It was mostly just out of spite of other video like lore podcasts where I'm just like, I don't want to listen to these. I need to make something that I want to listen to. So
I love that.
it was me being persnickety and nitpicky about other things. So
Well, I think that's good. I'm just getting into the Warhammer franchise, which has like decades of lore and everything behind it. And
too much.
a little too much. But reading over some of like the lore about that on the internet and like through some videos, and then actually reading some of the books, one of the things I found is it's just so interesting to me, the difference between, I think, like lore content that people make into like YouTube shorts or like TikToks, where I think that's almost like too short sometimes, and they're just like trying to hit like, hey, Warhammer, here's all the like insane stuff, like whoa. But then like you go read a book and you're like, oh, this is like a book about like normal people. They just happen to be like big super soldiers, but like they're still people at the end of the day. So do you ever have trouble with that? Like you're like, hey, I want to hit some of these like really cool topics, but like I don't know if this makes for like good content.
Yeah, and actually the one that I'm writing currently is kind of like that, because it's a very dry topic. Like I don't really want to say what it is. But it's just kind of like,
this episode won't be out for like 3 weeks, so you're good.
Oh, you know what? Actually, yeah, this will be out. So I'm working on a Lord of the Rings episode, but it's basically everything from like the Silmarillion. So it's not interesting Lord of the Rings. It's the history textbook boring Lord of the Rings. So it's like it's kind of sort of what you described, where it's just kind of like it's a lot of just ordinary, like nothing's really happening, but it's still like interesting at the same time somehow. And trying to write around that it's hard to make it interesting.
Well, yeah, and I mean,
especially because it's Tolkien. Like it's just like I love him as an author, but like he can spend an hour or like 3 pages describing a door frame, and it's just like, come on, man, get off of it.
Brevity was not one of his gifts, and
yes,
that's okay.
Yes.
So because I'm a high school science teacher, I run into the same stuff a lot. Just because we always come back to education, where sometimes I'm like, man, I gotta like teach this topic because it's like foundational for some other stuff, or like, hey, I think it's interesting. I'm like, the students are gonna find this interesting, but sometimes it just needs to be talked about. So, I definitely feel you on that. I can't just go around talking about like pop science every day, because it's cool, but like, is there as much to learn?
Yeah, and it's like I run into that with like when I'm deciding what I want to write about. It's like, okay, do I try to hit something that's topical, or do I just write about what I want to write about? Like I think I've written like 3 Star Wars episodes, I think, and like they are by and far my worst performing episodes. But like I'm gonna keep writing about it because it's interesting to me. It might not necessarily be cool. It might necessarily like it's not going to be what's like topical or like what people I guess want to hear, maybe, because like I do like some like deep cut stuff, but it's like I don't know, I feel like I just got to kind of like get through it and get it out there, because some of these things it's like there's nothing about it, like it's or like there's not as much as I think that there should be about some of these topics. But yeah, it's like some things can be super boring, and it is a challenge to try to make it interesting, and sometimes I think you just have to lean into how boring it is and basically just teach it like a history lesson. And that's kind of what I try to do, is like, all right, like let's just get through the information, let's just pack it in there, let's just do it, I guess.
And people are definitely into that.
Yeah, I just listened to the Mandalorian episode, and I thought that I don't mean that I thought it was boring, but it was like very dense, and there was like so much to it that I was listening to it during my commute, and I was like, wait a minute, rewind, wait, who is this guy? And like going back again to catch things because there was just so much.
Yeah, that one was a struggle, and you would not believe how much I cut, like characters and stuff that I had to cut from that because I'm like, this isn't relevant. Like, who is this guy? He showed up one time. Like, why do I care about him? But then there's like some people that just like there's like one guy who just keeps showing up. And like, I have to mention him because he's like a part of like the key parts of the Mandalorian Wars, but like he did nothing. Like he's just like a useless character. But I'm like, I have to mention him because he's just always there. Yeah,
just
that
like
one was
loitering
tough.
in the background. You're like, don't look at him. It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as you mentioned all these things, like how do you pick topics for like when you record? Just you had mentioned like you just kind of go with what you like, but you know, I feel like you're always fighting against like the algorithm and like what people want to watch.
Yeah, so usually it ends up just being what I'm playing, or like I'll have a conversation with like one of my buddies or like my wife, where I'm like, oh, like here's this random little tidbit that I remembered or like that I came across on Reddit, and I'm like, I'll just start talking about something. Like the Mandalorian Wars is one of those that like, this isn't relevant. Like this was relevant like 20 years ago when Knights of the Old Republic came out. And it's just one of those things that like, it just kind of came up one day while I was talking to someone, and I'm just like, oh man, I gotta like deep dive into that. Like I gotta just do, like, this is interesting to me. Like that's what I want to do. And that's most of them I find is just kind of like, this is what I've been playing, or this is what I've been talking about. This seems interesting. And I'll just latch onto one thing and just decide like, that's it. And then in like the odd case where I was topical one week with like Starfield, it's just because I bought Starfield on launch and I just happened to be playing it. So, yeah, I try not to think about like what the algorithm would like too much because I'm habitually bad at social media. And so I wouldn't be able to capitalize on it even if I wanted to. So I just like, I tend to forget about like I need a social media manager because I'm terrible at it.
The only reason we have any social media presence is because Dempsey is our social media guru. He is the one-man band with that for the most part, for sure.
To be fair, he does it for like an actual job, so like he knows what he's doing.
It's true.
That helps.
I've made 2 TikTok videos for our channel, and both videos took me like 3 hours each or more. For like a minute and a half, I was like, this is not sustainable.
Yeah. Well, I did the same thing with like little short videos that I was doing where like I would like go into Premiere and like do the whole thing. And I'm just like, it's just like, it took me like 4 hours to make like a 30-second clip. And I'm like, how do people do this like regularly? Like, I don't understand how people do this. Like, how are people churning out like 12 videos a day? How do you do like that? That's a skill. That is something I am not capable of.
Serious practice. Speaking of skills, how do you like? So some of the information that I've learned from your show, like the Mass Effect one, there was all this stuff. I was like, okay, I loved Mass Effect when it came out. I played it like religiously. I've loved the whole franchise. Some of the stuff that I learned, I was like, where was I? How did I not know this? It's pretty like core stuff. So where do you find that kind of information? Is it just like, do you play the games and just pick up everything, or how do you do it?
In the specific instance of Mass Effect, most of that was actually in a book. It was I think the book was called First Contact. I read it back in high school. I think it came out, I want to say it came out around the time that Mass Effect 2 came out. I could be wrong about that though. But honestly, like a lot of stuff that I find is like I found it in a book or like comics. Like the God of War episode I did was like a lot of the comics that I read back when they came out. And same with like Mandalorian Wars, like a lot of Star Wars stuff is in comics as well. So it's kind of knowing where the media is, I guess. And a lot of that is just found through going to a wiki, like going to like the game wiki, like the wiki spot or, you know, Fextra Life, whatever. And going through just like everything. And when I say everything, I mean everything about one topic, not the entire, but like, yeah, it can be hard to find certain information, but I find that also just like Reddit is the best, for like stupid information. So it's like a lot of the time if I have a question about something or if I want to start somewhere, I'll just like Google it Reddit's the first thing that pops up, I'll go into a random discussion thread and be like, oh, this is cool. Like, this is interesting. I would have never thought of that, and then go from there. But yeah, it's I think like it helps knowing supplementary materials and knowing what else is out there aside from the games, because there are a lot of video game books and comics that I like. More people should read. They're so good.
I just think it's funny, the idea that you're like, okay, I'm gonna go look at the wiki for this, and then be like, oh, like it's listing all of these like primary sources I can go read. You're doing like actual academic work of like, what are the primary sources here? Because people don't do that, right? Like, people just want to like hit like the summary from the wiki page. This is what I mentioned earlier. Like, you actually read the book and you're like, oh, this is nothing like what the people on the internet said it was.
Yep. And that is a lot of it, is finding sources and like credible sources, because that's another thing, is I have a fear of being wrong on the internet. So I'm making sure to double and triple check my sources before I do anything. And if I do anything, I make sure it has a source. If it doesn't have a source, but I think it's meritable, then I will like say, this is speculation. Like, don't take this with a grain of salt, because I don't want to be wrong. But yeah, it's literally, you're right. It's very academic. It's very much like writing a paper or writing an essay. It's kind of ridiculous.
I wish I'm going to have to see. Are your episodes safe for work? I can't remember now.
Very. Yeah. I make a pretty good habit of making sure that I don't swear or do anything like that. In my personal life, I'm a little bit of a sailor. But I do try very hard to keep when I'm talking, like my in-law voice on, try to be good when I'm podcasting.
Absolutely. Because I just feel like as an English teacher, I'm always teaching like academic skills for like researching and writing and how to cite a source and how to find good sources and how to use sources to back up what you're saying. And the kids are like, when am I ever going to have to do this? And I just think it would be so much fun to do do a clip or something from the podcast and then be like, okay, find those sources, which we know exist, and like back up your claim or whatever. But it's like, you can use these skills in all kinds of different avenues and for different reasons, So
yeah, I specifically went towards arts as a career so I could get away from writing essays. And so I never had to write an essay during my degree. And here I am, several years later, using my high school English class skills.
I think that's my favorite thing, is the loop around to like, you're like, man, I never want to do that again. And then it's not even somebody's forcing you. You just sat down one day and you're like, shit. I'm like, oh no, I'm doing it.
This is my life now.
I'm going to have to write like a well-sourced paper.
That's awesome.
Oh,
cool. Well, I think that gives us a good segue into just talking about world building in general. And sort of one of my sort of segue discussion question is just, how does the way that a game shares or doesn't share its history or its lore affect the experience of the game? And I was thinking, the game that came to mind for me with like very atmospheric sort of lore sharing is BioShock, and the way that the environment is almost a character in itself telling you its story. What do you guys think about, like, I don't know what my question is exactly, just
Well, I think that BioShock is like an excellent example of just like, it's kind of, so I have a couple games in like a bullet list that I wanted to grab, and like BioShock is a perfect like middle ground, I think, because there's so much background storytelling that like it's told in like little conversations that you hear, or like the like audio files that you find, and there's so much good information that like makes the world feel lived in, but it's not exactly presented to you. But there's a really good sense of like, when you're going through, even if you don't hear any of those, you know exactly what the story's about. You understand like why Rapture is the way it is, and like it tells an amazing story, but also does like incredible world building with just like the stuff in the background for the people who care to find it. And I think that's like, a masterclass in storytelling, personally.
Yeah, I agree. I think that was kind of you put it the way that I was thinking as well, actually, like that middle ground, because my other example that I was thinking of was Hollow Knight, where you could play the entire game and have no clue that there was a story. Like, you don't have to engage with the lore at all in order to have a really fulfilling experience with Hollow Knight. And that's kind of been my take because I play it so stop-start. There's a story? I don't know. I'm just going through, like, getting abilities and killing bugs and finding new
killing
places.
Bugs.
I'm just killing bugs. And so I know that there is quite a lot of lore, but I'm not engaging with it in that way. So, but with, like, BioShock, there's that good mixture where some of it is hand-fed to you and some of it you're able to search out and kind of enrich the world with your own exploration.
Yeah, and I think one of my I had a similar one where like I was going to bring up the Dark Souls, Bloodborne, Elden Ring games just because it's like they're very much the same, where you could play those games and not understand what you are, why you're doing this, like who are these people, why am I killing these people, but it's like at the same time it's an amazing, like it's not okay, so this might be a hot take, but like I don't think the games are good at storytelling, but I do think they are fantastic at world building. So I think that because like there's so much in the item descriptions or stuff like that where like you can put together a lot of what happened before you came to the game or events that happened in the game based on item descriptions and all that. And that's excellent world building, but the game doesn't really it does tell a story, but it's
a little bit, I think, like,
yeah,
just, because you mentioned it coming from like the VaatiVidya background with like lore and I think like the cinematics in the Dark Souls games do like a pretty good job of at least like setting the scene.
Right.
Both like the Dark Souls 1 cinematic is pretty good. The Dark Souls 3 cinematic is pretty good. Dark Souls 2 is Dark Souls 2. But aside from that, yeah, I mean, I think they make a good point in those games on the difference between like lore and world building and storytelling. That, yeah, I can definitely agree that. Do the Dark Souls games do a great job of storytelling? No, but do they do a fantastic job of world building and letting you figure out what that story is certainly, yeah.
And I think a big part of that is how ambiguous those games are, because they give you little bits of information, but you really have to fill in the gaps. And I think it's like the story can be kind of like whatever you want it to be, almost, just because of like how much is intentionally left out. I think it like everyone kind of has their own interpretation of the story. And it reminds me of learning about, trying to uncover like ancient civilizations by inscriptions on weapons or like painting on walls and stuff like that. And it's like, well, we have these little glimpses into what their life was like, but like, we don't really know. Like, we have no idea what happened there really. And I think it's kind of the same sort of thing. And maybe I'm wrong about that, but that's how it feels to me.
No, yeah. I think, I forget if it was from like an interview with Miyazaki or somebody had just made a mention of it before, but he's talked about some of his inspiration for like why he chose to do the way he did the lore in his Souls games. Is he was a little Japanese kid at some point reading like English comics, and he's like, I only recognize some of these words, so I have to like fill in the rest of what the heck this story is. And the idea of the Souls game is being just do that in reverse. Like, okay, we've got a story, but like, how do we obscure enough of it so that people sort of get this experience of like, I only half know what's going on here.
That's so cool.
But I think that's just true for a lot of media. Like, I just finished reading a book that my girlfriend recommended to me. And I think one of the joys of like just reading in general, right, is you have this like picture in your head of like, okay, here's what the characters look like, or here's what like the weird, creepy creature that's hunting them down looks like. But I only have a partial description of what that might be, and I have to fill in the rest of the gaps anyway. And it's a book. It was a fantastic story. I enjoyed reading it. So I think you could still have fantastic storytelling and leave out those gaps. You made the point of sometimes you have to do some speculation. Even when you're like being really academic with the lore, sometimes you're just like, hey, like we don't know what goes here.
Mm-hmm. I feel like with any kind of story, like whether it's a game or a book, there's some element of sort of in fiction archaeology that has to go on where you can put those pieces together for yourself. I think for me, I prefer an experience where that's more on the BioShock side of things, where it's more curated, that I see all the things I'm supposed to see, and then I can do that digging to find the extra bits. I find with games like Elden Ring or like Dark Souls, I've never really gotten that into them because it's so opaque that I'm like, I don't see anything here that I want to dig for. I'm okay.
What am I doing? I'm just punching dudes and I have no idea what's happening.
Mm-hmm. And my hot take for Elden Ring is that like the mechanics feel really clunky and I can't figure out what the story is. So.
Okay. Dark Souls 1 feels clunky. Dark Souls 2 feels clunky. Dark Souls 3, Elden Ring, Bloodborne. Oh, those are clean, crisp, amazing.
Yeah, but like Dark Souls 1 is like good clunky.
I agree. Dark Souls 2 is just a step in the wrong direction. But
we're beating a dead horse there, but
yeah.
You know what? I want to say one nice thing about Dark Souls 2 is that I think it actually has my favorite intro cinematic of any of the games. Just because of how creepy and disturbing, and nothing happens. Like it's a whole lot of nothing, but it's like it's so cool. Like it just looks like it's visually fascinating. It's like I don't know. I like it. But.
All right. I have nice things to say about Dark Souls 2, but I'm not going to.
Oh no! Withholding praise. That's unkind.
It deserves it.
Oh no!
It does. It's true. So like you're more into games, so like The Last of Us, or like the most recent God of War game, so like 2018 and Ragnarok, where it's like, okay, here's the story, everything is presented to you as you need it. Like both of those games I think are a good example of like cinematic storytelling in games and like world building. It's more, I think they're more written and presented like movies than they are like games. They're kind of interactive movies.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I also really like that. I like that form because I don't have to think about what the game's about or like what I'm doing. The game just tells me, and like the game shows me exactly what I'm doing. And I think there's something to be said about how that is better for like a widespread audience, whereas something like Dark Souls is definitely like you have to enjoy playing the game first and then you'll discover the lore.
Right.
But yeah.
Yeah, I think that's super
I think the model
accurate,
of something like, God of War or something. Also, I think it honestly just makes more sense. Like, I like the whole like Dark Souls, Elden Ring, like what the heck is going on? Like, I've got to go like find people to figure this out. But like, I think it just honestly makes more sense to be like, hey, like, here's what's like, you don't need to exposition dump on me, but also like, hey, here's what's happening. You're like, oh, sick. It's kind of like, I think you play through Skyrim and you're never like, I don't know what's going on. You're like, okay, like the Greybeards literally just said like, come here. And then somebody else was like, hey, you should probably go over there. And like, I think that's normal and also fairly reasonable.
Well, I think like Bethesda games are something in themselves where it's just like Bethesda's weird because they make really good worlds, but the way they tell stories is kind of they don't really like that. They kind of just expect you to just kind of like role play your way through the story and make your fun that way, which is good, but
fine.
Right. It's like if you ever had to ask yourself, why is my character actually choosing to engage with the Thieves Guild or, any of those little sides? Yeah. Why should I? Well, because it's fun.
Well, because I encountered it and I have to 100% everything.
That's really what it is, isn't it? That's what so in God of War, I'm like, I want to find all of the chests and all of like the runes for the little guy Atreus to find and translate. Not because I'm actually going to read any of it. I just want to have that little box checked that I've collected it. So for me, those pieces of lore are not as engaging to me. But there are certain games where I do want to hunt down every single clue and understand every single nuance of a story. So like I played Forgotten City, which is it started as a Skyrim mod and became its own like proper game. And you play as somebody who gets stuck back in time in this Roman city that's like you can't get out of. It's underground. And it's on like a time loop. So you're trying to solve this mystery. And every time you go through, you're armed with more information. But I got to an ending fairly quickly with it, and I was like, that doesn't really quite make enough sense. So I went through and I did it again, and I played it so many times because I wanted to have every conversation, find every clue, understand every possible thing that was going on. And that was sort of my excavation, was to go through and make sure that I had explored all those avenues. But it was still delivered to me in a pretty cinematic way once I found it, which I think is why I engaged with it so much. How do you guys prefer to engage with lore? Like, do you like it more interactive that way, or do you like to have to search it out more?
I like a good mix of both. Like, I like a good story being presented to me, like, and I don't have to like search for that story. But at the same time, it's like, I don't like when I'm spoon-fed that story. Like, if I need a good amount of like supplementary content for like the story where I can like go and find as much as I want. And I think that's the best way that I engage with games, because it gives me a sense of purpose, I guess, in the game, past just playing the game to play the game. Like, I like to find everything. I like to go over every excruciating detail in the game and try to figure out I'm really big into the world building and storytelling. So like, if for something like the Fallout games, I'll bring that up again, where you can go and there's like terminals around that are like from the old world, and it's like journal entries or like a guy's like entries from his job site or something. And it's just like these little things that give you like make you feel immersed in the world, something that makes the world feel lived in. And it's just like having little things like that in a game, I feel like are really important to me, because it just increases my immersion. It gives me something to do. It gives me something to like work towards, to try to like piece together like what's going on in this game, and like what happened before the game, or like what's happening in other areas of the game that I'm not in. Because if I'm just in like one city in one game, then like what's going on in the rest of the world? Like that's what I want to know. And I really like when games have that.
Sort of like those clues that there were things before you were there.
Yeah, exactly.
Just to give an example of a game that I think does this poorly, but maybe I'm a little biased because I just don't like it, was Returnal. Like, I haven't
played it. I want to, though.
Here's the thing. I didn't like Returnal because I felt like it did a little too heavy into the like journal entry thing. It was kind of just like, okay, I'm running through these levels, and then occasionally it spits me out like a journal entry, and it's just kind of like exposition dump, wait a little while, like exposition dump, wait a little while, exposition dump. And I think it's why I bounced off that game, because I mean, I like games with esoteric lore, but I just wonder if it's like in my genre. Like, I just really like Souls-like and Metroidvanias, and it seems to be what they go for is like esoteric lore. So it's hard for me to even like think of an example of a game that's like better.
I was going to ask you that, Seth, because I know that most of the games that you like to play are not devoid of story, but not the main emphasis isn't. I said not, but not that's not the main emphasis. Like, from my observation, like the mechanics are more what draws you in, and then the story would come after.
Yeah, and this is true for like games across, just like any sort of game that I play. I'm big into like game mechanics. I enjoy doing like game design, so that's just the kind of stuff that appeals to me. And in the case of like the genres of games that I enjoy, like Souls-like and Metroidvanias and roguelites, I think it's just kind of part of the genre for them to be lore light. But I always enjoy learning about what they have. Even if it's not like anything super revolutionary, I think at least having some amount of lore gives a game like a good backdrop. Great example, a game that I was playing a lot over the past few months was Luck Be a Landlord. It's a roguelite where you like spin a slot machine in order to pay your rent. And fundamentally, it's a game that's like, it's a game that's like fairly devoid of lore. It gives you like a basic premise, which is like, okay, you need to pay rent, and like your landlord is like forcing you to pay like higher and higher rent payments every month. But at least having that as a backdrop, I think does a lot for that game. Whereas otherwise, if it was just like, okay, this is like a slot machine roguelite, you'd be like, yeah, okay, but the fact that it's like, oh, like you have to pay rent, and that's why there's these like checkpoints, and then the game ends that if you like get the final rent payment, you like kill your landlord and you can just like go into the endless mode because you don't have to pay rent anymore.
Oh my God.
It's great.
Wow.
It's just goofy.
Wow.
Yeah, before your last rent payment, you have to like battle your landlord. And they play this like big like beheading sound if you like beat them at the end. It's very fun.
Oh my.
Amazing.
Holy. That's awesome.
So you have to have like a driving force in the game. Like there needs to be something compelling you to go through rather than just kind of like aimlessly wandering and hoping that you finish the game.
Right.
Yeah, and I think that does a lot just to push the story towards some direction. Just to say, give something really esoteric. One of my favorite like D&D content creators and writer is Matt Colville, and he talks about something he calls Orcs Attack, which is like sometimes you just need to push the story forward. And I feel like just games having, even if it's like the smallest bit of lore, does a good job on like actually pushing you through something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, otherwise you're just sort of pixels walking through this empty corridor, you know?
Yeah,
There's
which
no
like
point to it.
if your mechanics are fun enough, like yeah, I'll just like walk through the empty corridor. Like I think that's for Dark Souls for a lot of people at first is like I have literally no idea what's going on, but like the combat feels fun, so like I'll just do it.
But
Well,
they
I was just
kind
going to
of
bring up
go
I was just going to bring up the Zelda games. And like especially like old Zelda games where like is there story? I don't know. Like kind of sort of, but they kind of just like especially in the early ones, they kind of just like drop you in and they're like the princess is in danger. Here's a sword. Go. And it's like, but what am I doing? Why? Like
Precisely.
and it's games like that where it's like there's so little storytelling, and maybe this is just like I think this is very much like a Japanese game thing because it seems to be where it's like there doesn't like as long as the mechanics are good, the game doesn't like there doesn't have to be a whole lot of story. They just like they give you one thing to go after, and it's like save the princess, and that's all you have to go on ever. And then you're just like killing dudes, solving puzzles, and then eventually you fight Ganon, kill Ganon, princess is fine. And then that's it. But it's like there's not story, but they're still like amazing games for the most part.
Yeah. Or even just thinking about like old school Mario, right? Like it's just you don't even get any explanation at the start of the game. It's just like they just drop you into 1-1 and they're like you're like, why am I here?
Why am I
like
killing
those-
mushrooms?
those older Nintendo games, especially, or like older games in general, I feel like they follow that plot diagram so basically. Like you've got your little exposition, like there's Link living his happy normal life, everything's fine, and then you know Zelda gets kidnapped or whatever, and then the whole rest of the game you're just getting up to that point where you know you're going to fight Ganon and then rescue the princess. And I feel like as games have evolved and become more in depth and people have realized that they can use them to tell such incredible stories, you start to see like more of a like veering towards literature in the way that the plots are devised and the worlds are built. And I feel like it's as games start to lean more towards recognizing themselves as art, you start to see, I think, more of that really in-depth like detail and care put into the stories. Like The Last of Us or even like Forgotten City. The story was incredible in that game. And the mechanics were a vehicle to me for the story rather than vice versa.
Oh yeah, I think I get what you're saying. Yeah, it's sort of this interesting shift maybe on like, okay, games used to be all mechanics, but now they're like, oh, hey, we can actually like put a story in here and then have like the mechanics enable our story, which is interesting. I hadn't thought about that before.
Well,
Yeah,
I think it's
just
speaking
like
of like
I was gonna say I would just wonder if the Metroidvania like genre is just like lagging behind. Like I wonder if we'll just get there eventually. Hollow Knight's kind of like
maybe.
that.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say is like writing I think is really important in games, but it's like there's this weird thing where a game can be perfectly written but also feel like super not immersive because it's like there's a certain way, and I was thinking about this the other day. I don't remember what I was talking about, but there's certain games that don't write people very well. And I don't know how to explain it, but it's like there's a way that people talk in regular conversation that just doesn't come across. Oblivion, let's say, like Elder Scrolls, like Oblivion. Those people are aliens. They are not people. They like
No.
That's not how people talk. But it's like it's still kind of fun and quirky, but it's also like this
I'm playing
is just
a game.
weird. Like there's something. Yeah, I'm definitely playing a game. I am not immersed. But then there's different games that like The Last of Us does this really well. I'll keep coming back to that. Or like Mass Effect does this really well, where it's like there's just these like random conversations that you have with people where you're just like, sometimes I forget that I'm kind of in a game, or that like it's just maybe it's just the voice actors, but it's like sometimes just the way characters are written with like little weird things in their dialogue or like speech patterns that they give to certain characters that make them feel so alive. And I think that's really important to like storytelling and like making me feel immersed, because I think immersion is like one of the core components of like successful world building. Like if I feel like I'm like living in that world, then I feel like they've done their job, and I feel like, I guess,
Yeah, definitely. I think that dialogue is tricky, I think, in any medium, because the way we write and the way we speak just aren't the same, Yeah. But there was a game that I played this year called Citizen Sleeper, and it's sort of like a tabletop sort of style video game. It's mostly dialogue. There's no voice acting at all. But what I would find was sometimes I would say things like, you'd have your dialogue options and I'd be like, oh, well, this sounds like what I would say. So I would say it. And then it was like they would only give you like the snippet of what you were going to say. And so then the rest of what I said, I didn't know I was going to say. And I'd be like, oh, that wasn't what I meant. Oh, no. And then it would take the story in like this completely different way. But it was the conversations were so realistic that the way that people responded to each other, and even the way that some of my dialogue trees would branch off that I hadn't anticipated, it felt so natural that it was really engrossing, even though it was basically an interactive book that I was reading, because there weren't really any mechanics besides some resource allocation. But one of the best games that I played this year, so you should check it out probably.
Noted.
Yes. So earlier you mentioned that when you're looking for the lore for your episodes, that you often look to like comics and books and that sort of thing. So, and Seth, I know you're doing Warhammer now, right? And you've started reading some of the books and things for that. So where is that, like, for you guys, where is that intersection where the game meets another medium in like a canonical way, where you're like, okay, I want to know more about this. I'm going to go read the book and, make that leap to looking for other sources? Like, what made you want to start reading the books, Seth, when you were playing your Warhammer, which is not D&D?
Which is not D&D, no. I think it's just a desire to know more. And I think that's probably what it often falls to for a lot of these pieces of media, is I'm just like, oh, this is cool, but like a game is constrained by like being a game. Like it needs to have certain elements, and it gives away. There's certain like suspensions of belief that you have to integrate when like playing a game. Great example of this is like Elden Ring. Feels like a humongous game when you actually like go to sit down to play it. But if you look at like the actual size of the world map, it's something ridiculous. Like it would cover the size of like the city of Tokyo. And that's like it. Like game worlds are actually like drastically smaller so that they're essentially like playable. So it's interesting, I think, in just some ways to see like, okay, how do different like mediums represent these things? How do like different writers represent like a lot of these ideas I'm seeing? And especially for something like Warhammer, for me, it was a desire to say like, okay, I've heard about some of these things before, but I actually want to see like some of the primary sources on that. And I discovered a ton of really interesting things. Like a lot of what people say and talk about on the internet as like accepted lore isn't necessarily true. Like a lot of what people use for the lore on the internet is like caricatures of like caricatures. How do you say that word?
Caricatures.
Caricatures.
Is that what
That's
you're
the
trying
one.
to say?
Caricatures of like characters or like archetypes within the story, and they represent that as like fact. So actually sitting down and reading the story, I was like, oh, this is not like how people have represented these characters at all. Like, they took all their worst or best things and they've like amped them to 100. And I'm like, oh, okay, this is actually interesting to see it through like a reasonable lens. So I just like the different medium almost.
And I think it's a good way to explore kind of like what games can't, because you're right, like games are constrained to doing like kind of like one thing, staying in one lane, so to speak. But it's like there's so many avenues. Yeah, like there's so many like avenues where you could go, and like I think that's great for like the Halo series did this really well with like different books. So there's like the Fall of Reach, or there's like more about the Flood. Like the Halo series did a really good job of like just adding these little supplementary books that like on things that I wouldn't have thought to really ask more about. And a lot of series do that. Like Zelda has a few like comics and like the supplementary books. Like, well, there's like the Hyrule Historia. There's like there's the new one for like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. It's like Making a Hero or something like that. Where it's just like these little things where it's just like questions that you might not have thought that you had. Where it's just like, oh, cool. Like there's this extra little tidbit about like this character. Like there's an entire book about Sergeant Johnson. Like he's such an underutilized character in the games because we need to focus so much on Master Chief and the Arbiter that like Sergeant Johnson is just kind of like a comedic relief character almost. And then you read him in the books and he's just this like super stern, cool, like amazing, like military dude. What do you want to call him? Sergeant, I guess is his title. But it's like, I think it's really cool to just, it's really good for just supplementary content of like, we couldn't fit this in the game because it wouldn't have made sense. Like, we can't just dedicate an hour to talking about this guy or this city or like this planet. And I guess Star Wars does that really well too, even if none of the books are canon anymore. It's just really cool to have different events covered that like the game can't because the game's constrained to telling one story. Mm-hmm. And that's what I like about comics and books about games.
Absolutely.
I was also just going to note, like, if I think one of the other cool things maybe about a book is not to diminish either of like the forms of media here, but like in a video game, I think a lot of times some lore gets hit on like a side quest. Like Skyrim does this all the time, where it's like, okay, like we're going to take you to some weird part of the world. We're going to teach you a little bit about like this tiny little like town or this cabin, and we're going to give it like a little bit of a story and then sort of roll with it. But that requires, you know, the sort of background process to put like a side quest in the game means that like somebody had to write the side quest, and then if it has like any unique models, and then there's game design, and like people have to model buildings and a whole bunch of stuff. Whereas I think with a book, like, okay, like somebody had to write it, and that's a challenge in of its own, but you know, it didn't take like a whole team of people with a whole bunch of like extensive resources, like, and I think that's another one of the advantages of this like book art form is that you could just say like, okay, like we're gonna go send like a script outline to like Joe, and Joe is just gonna like write a book or a short story on this topic, and then we can explore that like that. Because
they can do world building, but they don't have to physically build the world along with it like you do have to do for games. Right. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like I've never read anything, like I've never read any books that are part of video game franchises, and I've never really read comics either. I'm not a very good nerd. But I feel like if I were to read like the book that's the prequel to Mass Effect, where you learn all about like Caden Alenko and all that sort of thing. Yeah. I think you would have that moment when you go into the game where you're like, oh, I know this guy. I know like the history. And you can have that it's almost like getting to see your friends. You can get, I think that's a really exciting feeling when you feel like you've gotten to know somebody and then you get to see them in a different context.
That's my favorite thing about the Warhammer book that I was reading is it's the first book in like the prequel book series, and it introduces a lot of characters that I'm like, I know that guy, and then you get like 10 pages later and you're like, I know that guy, and you're like, he's sane now, but he's going to turn into like a crazy demon guy like some point between like this part of like the normal series, and that's just a ton of fun. Or just like reading about something and you're like, oh, this is foreshadowing, but like it's foreshadowing for like the later series, but like I've already read the later series. So like, is it really foreshadowing?
You almost get to feel in the know, which is
Yeah,
always a fun
and that's
way
a
to feel.
great feeling. I love feeling
Yeah.
cool and in the know.
Yeah, like I know things. Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's how I felt when so I read the Star Wars books habitually. Like when they come out, I try to read them as quickly as possible. And so there's like they're going through like the old or the High Republic now, which is like, and in the most recent Star Wars game, the Jedi Survivor, they like mentioned twice, because like this planet that they went to, they were invaded by these like pirates, and they mentioned them twice by name. They're the Nile. And I remember like when I played the game, I'm like, oh, I know them because I've read 4 books on. I'm like, I know who the Nile are. I'm like, they're not going to explain them in the game, but like I know them. I know who runs them. I know everything. And it's like the coolest feeling just to be like, yes, I'm in the know. I'm the cool guy now. Even though I'm sitting on my couch playing a video game on a Saturday in my pajamas, but like it's it's such a good feeling to like, especially, or even like, I mean, even after you play the game and it's just like, characters show up in the book you're reading, you're just like, oh, that's where they came from, or like, oh, that's why this person is a terrible person in the game. Like, why are they so angry? And then you find out that they had a traumatic childhood, or you know, whatever. And it's just kind of like, like a reason for this person, like a reason for this, a reason for that, and it's just like that's such a good feeling for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a reason why, like, the Marvel universe, the Star Wars universe, all of these intellectual properties have created these vast worlds now where all of these different kinds of stories can exist within it, because I think we all tend to like that feeling of like that shared experience, and of being like, oh, we're watching this movie and it's got, you know, it's about Captain America, but it's got Hulk in it. We know Hulk from something different. And it's like that feeling of being part of kind of an exclusive club, even though it isn't, where you are part of the world because you know all of these different pieces that go together.
You see,
Yeah.
Katie, you gotta get into comics, because like I haven't read a lot of comics, but like the little ones that I've read, it was this like old Doctor Strange comic, and I was like, oh, this is kind of like funky. And then I got like halfway through, and then they just had like a Doctor Doom cameo, and I was like, yeah. And I was like, I don't know why he's here, but like, let's just randomly bring in some other characters.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's like reading any Deadpool comic is just like, oh, that it's just every character is here. Oh, cool. Okay, I don't know why.
The whole time.
I love Deadpool comics are great, but they are not somewhere I would start because they are chaos. They break every single like rule of comics, and it's intentional and it's good, but like, oh god, they're chaos. They're scary.
Not for beginners. Okay, noted.
Well, there's like literally a comic, and it's Deadpool kills the Marvel universe, and the entire thing is about him killing all the heroes, and it's just like, because he found like a loophole, like a multiverse like exploit where he can just go in different realities and like inconsequentially kill everyone just for fun. And it's just like, okay, like in the context of the universe, this is still technically canon, but like, you know, with a multiverse, anything is canon. So
right, that was a very a smart choice on their part.
I think it's almost suffocating though. Like, I don't know, as soon as you bring a multiverse in, because then it's like, oh, but anything can happen. You can do whatever you want. So like everything is inconsequential because you have the multiverse. It's like, well, this world is doomed, but like this one isn't. So let's just like, if we can, let's just leave this one. Oh, well. But I guess at the same time, it's a very good way to tell stories because it's kind of like a what if version of stories, right? Because it's like, if anything can happen, then
carte blanche to just try things. Yeah. And then they can say, no, we went to a new world after that. They're not bound by any of their choices, canonically speaking, kind of.
But at the same time, if they make a mistake in writing and accidentally, they're like, they can retcon it by just being like, it's the multiverse. Who cares? Like, yeah,
exactly.
No, we didn't write that wrong. It was right. It's just in a different unit. It's a multiverse thing.
You just don't understand because it's a timey-wimey thing. Precisely.
Anyway, not to ruin the fun, but we're about 15 minutes over.
I think we're about there.
Yeah.
So, Brett, where can we find your show and all your things?
At Lord to Death. It's not Lord as in like a medieval lord. It's like lore as in like a book with a D on the end because it's kind of funny because it's like bored to death, but Lord to Death. You can find me I'm mostly active on Instagram. My podcast is wherever you can find podcasts for the most part. But yeah, that's me. You can find me anywhere you can find Lord to Death.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. We really appreciate having you.
Ton of fun.
Yeah. Was. So this has been Overthinking Games, a podcast about what games can teach us. Thank you so much for listening, and join us next week for whatever we're talking about next week. You can find us on, I have to say where you can find us. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and TikTok as the Overthinking Games podcast. If you want to send us an email with your questions or thoughts, our email is in the show notes. We would love to hear from you. And if you enjoyed our show, please leave us a rating and a comment if you'd like to. We would appreciate that. That would help us a whole lot. So thanks. Bye.
Bye. Vamonos.
Bye.